it's interesting how, when we talk about how spirit works,
Yeah.
Moving away from concepts like the Twilight Zone and just trying to make it seem like it's coming from an ethereal level. When you break it down to science, and my brother Ade out, that was the purpose of my book, Spirituality Before Religions, was to take these concepts of spirituality that we all have, no matter what your faith system may be, and to begin to look at the very basis, the foundations of that particular religion, from A to Z, from agnostic, atheist, Christianity, Muslim, Hebrew, Jewish, Zoroastrian, Rosicrucian, whatever it may be, Buddhism. You can trace it back to an ancient world that began the building blocks of what would become an organization of spirituality, which became, because of its geographic location, it became a religion, which is organized spirituality. But spirituality is the very energy, the essence of what every religion is, and all religions are one.
Yes.
That's why folk, when they hear me talk, they sometimes ask, well, brother, what are you? You Christian? I say, yeah. And they say, and then somebody else says, well, what you're saying, it sounds a little Hebrew. I said, well, I'm Hebrew too.
Yeah.
And they say, well, how can you be both? I say, because I'm African. And when you're African, everything's come from Africa. So be you from agnostic to Zoroastrian.
Yeah.
African was the foundations of all of those philosophies. Those spiritual philosophies came out of an African mind. And I can find them in on the walls in Africa. I can find them in the written papyri of Africa. I can find them on coffins or temple walls. I can find them where your scripture comes from. I can show you where your scripture came from. I can show you Genesis. I can show you the 5 books of Moses. I can show you the New Testament. I can show you Cain and Abel. I can show you the flood.
So it's evidence-based.
Absolutely. And that's very important, Brother Ade, because Brother Dr. David Imhotep, the writer of The First Americans Were Africans, we were in a conversation about a year ago. And I was talking to him about truth and facts. And he said, brother, can I make a recommendation? I said, from you? Absolutely. Let me take my pen out. I'm going to write it down. And he said, don't use words like truth and fact, because truth and fact can change. Like, for instance, today was a beautiful sunny day. That's the truth, and that's a fact. Tomorrow, they say, it is going to be like very heavy rains all day long. So today, the truth is that it was sunny. There's evidence for that. It's a fact that it was a beautiful day today. Now, I don't know what tomorrow is, but when tomorrow comes, if it rains like they say, the truth and fact of today is not going to be the truth and fact of tomorrow, and there's going to be evidence of it by the clouds and the rain. So he said the word to use is evidence.
Yes. Evidence
never changes. It remains the same throughout time and space. And so I'm evidence-based.
Yeah.
And when you're evidence-based, then you have a point of departure for the point that you're trying to make. Your evidence may be a little faulty. You might need a little bit more accuracy. I understand that, because just because it's written in the book don't make it true.
Yeah.
But at least you have a point of departure for why you're saying what you're saying, and that is your evidence.
Yes. Or else where does it come from if it doesn't come from that? And before we get into that, let me just bring the our viewers into this. Good evening. My name is Ade Richardson, and this is Guided Meditations and More page. This is normally a daily 8 a.m. Eastern Time guided meditation. I've also been hosting interviews with various types of people on a variety of topics. And today I have the great honor to have with us Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene. Welcome, Professor, and thank you for joining. And I sent you a message on Facebook. I didn't think I was going to hear back from you because I know you're busy. You do a lot of podcasts and other work. and you were so open to me, and you gave me your number, and we had a warm conversation, and it just that conversation on that phone, I opened up some things about myself to you, and I felt it was received in a very open way, in a very compassionate way, and that really resonated with me. So I just want to say I appreciate that, and it's really good to have you here in front of me. And I thought I'll just read your short bio just to give the viewer an idea of who you are, although this does not capture everything. But okay, Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene is the best-selling author of Spirituality Before Religions. Spirituality is unseen science. Science is seen spirituality. And as I mentioned, I have that book on Kindle. I highly recommend it. I'm enjoying it. Also author of Honoring Professor William Leo Hansberry, 1894 to 1965, an intellectual libation for the architect of America's African Studies Department, and recognized as an internationally acclaimed Pan-African historian. Professor Kaba Hiawatha is also the star expert of the Hidden Colors documentary series. I saw part 1, which I recommend. I'm still going to watch the rest of them, as well as the narrator of the international hit film Out of Darkness. As an educator, consultant, curriculum, and community developer, Professor Kamene is also the principal facilitator and chief executive officer of the African Center Science Academy, named, and I may get this wrong, per Ankh. Is it Ankh?
That is it. Per Ankh.
Okay, and that's a Temple House of Life. So again, welcome, and it's really an honor to have you here. And let's pick up the conversation where we left off, perhaps. And I think we left off. We were talking about the importance of having evidence-based knowledge. So something that you can track back to some sort of evidence, and how even that is not always an absolute. That may have some flaws as well. And the question I had asked you, that where else would the knowledge come from? Like where do some get their knowledge from if it's not from evidence?
Well, you get it from opinion.
Yeah.
People can present things that are more slanted towards their opinion. And as a teacher, and I know that it's called the Socratic method, but I can trace it back to the temples of Kush and Kemet, or Egypt. Mm-hmm. And I always taught the importance. Socratic method is the questioning technique, because education, educare, to educe, means to draw out, not put in. Our perspective of education is, I'm here and I'm giving the people who are listening to what I'm saying, I'm giving you something. That is not the real education. The real education is when I present information that draws out of you your knowledge of what it is that I'm talking about. I come from the belief system in education and in life that I can't teach you anything that you didn't already know. Everybody who was watching this already knew everything. At the end of this conversation, you may say, wow, I learned so much today. Well, yes, you learned it, but what you learned that you already knew it. And I liken it to being in a dark room where you can see nothing in the room. And then all of a sudden you find a light switch and you turn it on. You see the chairs, the tables, you see the television set, the lamps, the pictures on the wall. My question is, did all those things appear in the room when you turn the light on? The answer is no, your light just wasn't on. So my approach towards teaching always comes from first respecting the learner to know you already know. Even when I taught kindergarten, because one of the things is that I come from a background of education. My primary license is early childhood. I'm a kindergarten teacher, but I've taught every grade. I've taught every subject up until postgraduate college. I've taught college for 14 years. And I was in the New York City Board of Education for 31 years. And so the Socratic method says that the greatest learning occurs not with me telling you something, but me drawing out of you what you already know using questions. And so I use what I call the food technique, FOOD. There are 4 different types of questions to ask. You can ask a factual question. You can ask an opinion question. You can ask an open-ended question. And you can ask a descriptive question. A factual question is the answer is yes or no. It's a fact. An opinion is nobody is ever wrong. You might not agree. In fact, that person might be saying something that you say, wow, this guy needs to check his mind out. But it's still his opinion, and he or she has a right to have it. The open-ended question normally has words like some, ever, or any. I call it SEA, some, ever, or any. For instance, have you ever been to Africa? That open-ended question leads to the 4th type, which is descriptive. I say, have you ever been to Africa before? That's open-ended. You say, yes, I've been to Africa. My next question is describe which countries did you go to? So when you understand setting up questions, you then understand how you are receiving the information that you're dealing with. And so in terms of your question, evidence can be broken up also into primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, if you want to go that far. Primary is you're on the scene with it actually happening that you bear witness. You are speaking on that issue. Secondary is when you're speaking of what someone else told you. Tertiary is when you are speaking of what somebody else told you that they learned from somebody else, and you can go on down the line to all the other ways that you can know. So you might be listening to someone giving you evidence, but it's a secondary source, and their interpretation of it is not exactly what the primary source was saying. So there's different ways that you can get evidence. That's why I say to people, I don't want you to believe a word I say. I'm not here to ask you to believe me. I am simply presenting information, asking you to think. I believe the greatest educator is a person who presents information that makes you think. Forget about believing it. I'm not interested in believing. The idea is to make you think. And if I can make you think, then I've been successful. Because I believe we have to research this for ourselves. Not only that, but if you research it, you may come to information that I never even gleaned from it. Your perspective might say, you know, when I was reading what you told me to read, wow, this is what I thought about it. And I might say, wow, I never thought of it like that before. Wow, that's good intel. Thank you for sharing that. I find information so exciting. And the scientific method isn't about arguing. It's not about debate. It's about scholars or scientists coming to a table, putting their information on the table. And it's up to us, the people who are observing it, to wrestle with it, to take the best, leave the rest, separate the nonsense from the sense.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's not about arguing. It's not about debating. It's about ma'at, which in Africa meant you're searching for balance and harmony and truth and justice. And many times, Brother Ade, we come to a table, I present my information, you present your information. What is my truth? What is your truth? What really comes from that exchange is the truth. Because normally the truth is somewhere between you and me. It may not be all me, it may not be all you, but it may be a combination of us both. And that's the excitement of education.
And it sounds like reminds me of the story of the 10 blind men and trying to describe the elephant, of what each one is having a different experience of what the elephant is. One person touches the elephant's ear and says the elephant is a long flappy thing. The other one is touching the skin, and they're each correct, but together they have wider view of what the truth really is. And I love the analogy of, turning the light on in a dark room. So you mentioned that we already know what we're being taught is not necessarily new information. It's things that we know, but we're not conscious of it. Am I stating that correctly?
Yes. You're born with everything. It's called the Akashic Records. You are born with the cosmic encyclopedia. And how could that not be true, though? You see, we are in a civilization that attempts to dominate, control, and contain. And so therefore, they have to put things in place that make the individual submit to that power, because that power is insecure and suffers from an inferiority complex. So therefore, when you have a differing view, you make them feel insecure. But when someone has a different view from me, I find that exciting, because it gives me a chance to look at, like you say about the 10 folk with the elephant, it gives me a chance to catch it from another perspective, because we're all in this world looking at things from our own perspective. And if each of us is strong enough in our own commitment to self, if we're all comfortable in our skin, I don't mind stepping back and say, yo, Ade, that was brilliant, man. Let me revise some of the things that I've been thinking. I'm very comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Be it my wife, be it my children, even my kindergarten children. I'm very quick to adapt to something that makes sense, that I've been doing something that I don't really see it as viable as it used to be once this new information comes to me. And so I adapt to something because I'm always trying to ascend to the cosmic truth, ma'at, not my truth. I'm not trying to dominate people with my truth. And as you go through the book, Spirituality Before Religions, it's just a conversation. It's my journey. Yeah. Spirituality Before Religions is my journey, growing up as a Roman Catholic, altar boy, choir boy, even want to be a priest. That's my background. I was always searching for the Creator. I was born within that concept. Studied Bible, speaking Latin. That was my life. But the dogma, there was something wrong with it. Not just as a Black man, but as a human, there was something wrong with the story that I just couldn't hold on to. So I started on a journey, and I met people in my life like Dr. John Henry Clark and Joseph Ben Yekinen and Asa Hilliard and Sharchi McIntyre and Jerry Price, and people started challenging the way in which I was thinking from a young age. I'm 12 and a half, 14, 16, being exposed. My name is Booker T. Coleman at the time. So I couldn't escape culture. My father is Booker T. Coleman Sr. He from Tuskegee, Alabama. So culture was always, every time someone knew my name, they said, oh, you're going to be a teacher one day. Which I didn't necessarily want to be at the time, but everybody, Booker T. Washington, Tuskegee Institute, Educator. So I grew up in a cultural atmosphere. I grew up in culture like a fish grows up in water.
Yeah.
But there was something going back and forth with me that wasn't jiving with me. And so I searched. And I looked, and for years I studied the pyramid text, I studied the Shabaka stone, I studied the coffin text, I studied the Maradic script of Sudan, I studied philosophies. And maybe 8, 9 years ago, I decided to write, just to come to conclusions. But then I said, but I didn't come to this knowledge just for me. That's where the book came from. The book came from my decision to share my journey in the third person, because I don't make it personal.
Yeah. And so how does this, for someone, and I shared I shared this with you before. I mean, I'm similar in that my life's journey has been about realization, about truth, whatever you'd like to call it, God realization, and and as I'm going along in my journey, I'm bringing to light different things that I didn't see before. Things about my own psyche that are coming up, and things that I've pushed down that maybe I've judged or condemned myself for and beat myself up for. So I resisted it. So now part of my journey has been bringing these up, and now I'm at a place where, and this is how I came to your teachings, really looking into how I've been conditioned growing up in the Western society, being of a mixed ethnicity, and going through what I went through, how those filters that I have there, how does that get in the way of seeing truth? How important is it to see what made those filters, what those filters are made of? What is the history behind that?
Well, for me, the idea is that all of these filters are human made. And they're made for various reasons, because first and foremost, when you look at anthropology, you really aren't mixed group, because there's only one race on the planet, and that's the human race.
Yeah.
That human race was conceived, born, nurtured, sustained, educated, civilized in Africa. And after Africans got their show together, then they took it on the road and peopled the planet. And so be you from India, or be you from Japan, or be you from Slovenia, if you trace your heritage back far enough, we all are going to find ourselves somewhere in Central South Africa. That's just science. That's history. That's anthropology. That idea of being mixed was created by someone who found advantage to making people believe that they were mixed in order to divide them and then conquer them.
Yeah. And
once you free yourself of those boundaries, even myself, looking to peoples of European descent, my thing is, I don't have fears. I have no problems with people of European descent. I know what the problem is. The problem is a select group of people, for whatever reason, insecure, suffering from an inferiority complex, suffering from a fear and a denial of that fear, have created a system to ensure that they remain on top. And to do that, they have to divide all the other people so that they stay in the majority. Because if you've got 100 people who are the same, so to speak, and you have 25 people who are the same, so to speak, if those 25 can break that group of 100 into 10 groups, then the minority, the 25 people compared to the 100 that are the same, the 25 people become the majority over the 10 groups of 10.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's where we find ourselves now. If we speak Spanish or Haitian Creole or the English of Jamaica, or if we are from India or if we are from Japan, we are fighting ourselves. We are fighting with ourselves over superficial differences, when in reality, it's been a game played on our minds. And the minority is taking advantage of the majority, because the majority don't realize that if they would just realize the similarities between the 10 groups, you'd have 100 people against 25. And this is what we face right now. And the 25 have put each of the 10 groups into what we call ghettos, el barrios, whatever other community that you want to see, that you may want to say. They've put them all in these little groups and made them live there, while the 25 live on a certain level. And I'm giving them credit, because it's not even that many of them that are like that. But it goes back to the story that I used to tell people about, in school, that when the teachers used to get together, they would get their lunch and they would go eat in the lunchroom. And everybody would be complaining, they would be gossiping, they'd be talking about everything that's wrong in the school. And all of a sudden, there were like two teachers there that said, I can't deal with this negative vibration in this cafeteria. I need to find some place that I can eat in peace and have a positive conversation. So they went to the custodian and they said, is there any place that we could eat that, that we could be private? There's only two of us here. So is there any room? And the custodian said, yeah, we have a room. It's in the basement. We have a room, well ventilated. You can come, you can eat your lunch, you can enjoy. And so they went there. And then pretty soon, another one of the teachers that was upstairs in the room of complaints asked the teacher, well, what happened to you? They said, we can't deal with those complainings and gossiping and that negative activity. And so we just eat downstairs. And that teacher said, wow, that's something else. I don't particularly care for that gossiping either. You mind if I eat with you? They said, sure, come on. Long story short, then pretty soon the fourth teacher said, well, where you three people been all this time? Well, they've been down in that room. Long story short, pretty soon they found out that out of that whole group of people up there that was complaining and gossiping, there was only really two people in there that was complaining and gossiping.
Yeah.
They just ignited everybody else to be negative. So guess what happened? They took those teachers of negativity, put them in the basement, and then all the teachers that were positive ate in the student, in the faculty cafeteria. Many of the things we're going through because we're following the crowd. A lot of the things that we're doing, we're going to complain, we're going to gossip because everybody else, so I'm going to do it too.
Yeah.
But it just takes those two people who are brave enough to say, look, I've had enough. We have to build in this school. Do you know how I feel when I go back into the classroom teaching these children after having experienced 40 minutes of that? So we have to identify the people who really are the culprits of the problem and move them into the basement so that we can take over the planet.
Yeah. And who are the culprits?
It's hard to say. It's all according to your spirit. It is not up to me to say who it is. It's up to the people to identify themselves as to who they are. I don't know people's hearts. And so I'm very careful to point the finger because I've realized it's, when you point the finger at somebody, three fingers point back at you and one point to God. So I try to stay away from pointing the finger at somebody. And I just basically say, your heart will tell you who you are. Your heart will tell you who you are. And you have to have the courage to have the kind of heart that will say, we can't go on like this. Even if it means that if there's only two of us that's going to go down into the basement, I'll go there. Because I don't want to experience that. That takes courage to do that. Because they could have stayed in the cafeteria, maybe moved their table off to the side by themselves, but they said, I don't even want to be in this environment.
Yeah.
It takes courage to do that. It takes courage to stand up. In the analogy of the story that I'm saying, Dr. King once said, quoting Dante's Inferno, the hottest part of hell is reserved for those who knew better but stood by and watched. It's not even reserved for the people that transgressed.
Yeah.
The hottest part of hell is reserved for the people who knew better but let it happen. I can't go out like that, Brother Ade. I can't be known for that. I don't want my children, my family, my community to see that. I want to be one of those two that said, we got to make a change. This is not going to happen for us.
Yeah.
So if you wish to oppress somebody, but to answer your question, the people who are the culprits are the people who would wish to oppress somebody who suffers from inferior. Because, if you're supreme, you don't have to say it. You just do your thing.
Yeah.
And you represent yourself in your best qualities. You don't have to tell people you're supreme. You don't have to set up a civilization that actually purposefully underdevelops a people in order for you to stay on top. And then after, you played Monopoly, right? I saw a sister the other day tell this story that you played Monopoly and you forbid people to play. Only you could play. And then after you buy up everything except go to jail, you then say, okay, you all can come and play. Well, you already bought everything up. So what is there for me?
Yeah.
See, Western civilization, they already bought everything up. They already took all the money and everything else, the riches and the, and all the things that go with it. And now all of a sudden, a couple black folk, some Hispanic, Asians can now play the game, but you already bought everything up. So what is my purpose of playing the game?
Hmm.
And so this is what I see happening out here. Now they're saying, okay, we're equal. Equal to what? Equal to what? You got to give something up. We got to start this game all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like where we are right now is we're in this divide and conquer. This, the wealthy and the powerful take it all and leave a little bit for everyone else. Whereas it sounds like what you're saying is having the courage to move towards more of a way of being where we're cooperating with each other, sharing, where we're, coming from a place of love and compassion and cooperation, where, I do for you and you do for me, and we're all on the same level is.
The idea, Brother Ade, is I'm at a point in my life in terms of my being able to put food on the table, pay the rent. I'm at a very comfortable point in my life. I'm nowhere near where these multi-billionaires are. But I see a need to even share with what I have. I see that when I support someone, when they rise, I rise with them. If I rise, everybody rises with me. Cooperation, competition. I don't compete with other people. I compete with myself, who I was the day before. Today, I want to be a better person than I was yesterday. Tomorrow, I look forward to being a better person than I was today. I don't compete with other people because everybody has their own very special gift given to them by the creator of all. I will never do what you do better than you because that's you. So my competition isn't with you. But this system, the way it's set up, is for us to compete with each other. So therefore, when I have, it is built upon the premise that I took something from you.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, this cosmos, this earth is for everybody. Everybody has a right to live on this planet. There is no such thing as aliens. There are no such thing as illegal aliens. That concept does not exist on the planet in nature. Because if that's true, then Western civilization is the biggest illegal alien on the planet.
Yeah.
If people have problems with the brothers and sisters from Ecuador, El Salvador, if they have problems with people from Guatemala and Mexico, can we ever really realize that the very people that we are saying are illegal aliens are the very people that inhabited this land before Europeans came and pushed them south? It's amazing the words that we give to people. This planet belongs to every human being, no matter who you are. No one has a right to take this planet from anybody. There is no such thing as an illegal alien. There's no such thing as an alien. And to create that word and to place it on a people is sacrilege against nature.
Yeah. And that goes back to evidence-based truth rather than an opinion that is, people just grab onto it and go with it, like send them back and, this sort of thing. Where should we go to now? I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of knowing who you are as it relates to the spiritual quest.
The idea of knowing who you are is just a phenomenal exploration. That's why each and each and every one of us is on the planet, to search for the God quality in us, and to evolve and to ascend in knowledge and wisdom as to who we are. The idea of evolution that took millions and millions of years, if not billions of years, to happen. And then once we, the masterpiece, the human being is the masterpiece of the universe. We are the ones that were destined before the beginning began, that we would come into existence to be able to reflect and to know that we are the creator having a human experience. Because that's what energy cannot do. Energy cannot know itself because of its being pure energy. Yeah. But encased in matter and evolving, where the heart gets to the right size, the lungs get to the right size, the brain gets to the right size, hands, feet, knees, everything gets to the right size. Evolution stops. And then the process of involution occurs. Involution is the search for the creator within. And once you come to realize that you are the creator having a human experience, and the second cosmic commandment is to treat the creator's creations as you would treat yourself. Because if I going back to what is happening to our family on the border, if I were to look at a person from Guatemala and understand that they were a creator, as I was a creator, and if I realized how I treated myself, it would be mandatory for me to treat them the way I would want to be treated myself. I could not look at them as an illegal alien, because if they're an illegal alien, then so am I.
Yeah.
If they're rapists and murderers and gangsters, then so am I. Unless they actually are. But as a group, that's not who they are. We have rapists, gangsters, and murderers in every culture that exists. That's not just because you belong to a culture. That's because that's your human nature within you, that you've allowed the negative forces to take over your existence. Not because you are of a certain cultural background, but because you really haven't developed your best personalities.
Yeah.
And we just have to, as a people, begin to look at each other that way. We are all related. We are all like drops of water in the mighty ocean. And what part of the drop of water isn't the ocean, and what part of the ocean isn't in the drop of water?
Yeah.
So we are the creator having a human experience.
And I'm guessing first, would you say one has to have a direct experience with that first before they can, obviously see it in someone else? Because if one does have this inferiority complex and has this sort of a self-hatred, then that's what they're probably going to project onto others.
They have no other choice, because as you see you, so goes the world.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself first. You have to see the creator within you. You have to understand that you are the creator having a human experience within your microcosmic reality. I am a mini creator as opposed to the macro creator that is out in the cosmic universe.
Yeah.
And you must love yourself. When you come upon people who have fatal love attraction, that's not love. That's not love. Love does not do that. That is an extreme form of a mental disorder. Okay? If somebody puts their hands on you and they assault you physically, verbally, mentally, or spiritually, and if you allow that to happen and you say, well, I love him or I love her and I can't, no, that's not love. That's not love. That's a very serious problem that you're going to have to get over, because it goes against human nature to purposely allow yourself to be hurt. If you really, I'll give you an example of what I told my daughters and my son as they were growing up. And I told them this as it relates to searching for a counterpart. And I said, in all relationships that you develop, with a man or a woman, in all relationships that you develop, you have to understand the root and the power of that relationship is not how you feel about them. The root of the relationship is how you feel about yourself. And if you see yourself as a viable person to be respected, you're not going to accept disrespect. You're just not going to accept it because that's not part of how you view yourself. So how can you? It's like being in a symphony with a horn that is out of harmony with the symphony. Life is your symphony. You come up with negative attitude. Hey, that don't sound right in my symphony. You got to go. And we must identify. But you see, the human family has gone through so much pain. Women, peoples of other cultures, African people specifically that I'm thinking of, because I'm thinking of myself and our people as it relates to our experience here. We have become accustomed to being treated a certain way, so that almost conducting in negativity has almost become the normal. Oh, that's the way he is.
Yeah.
No, that's not the way he is. That's the way in which you allow him to be. And it's up to each and every one of us to love ourselves so much that we wouldn't allow things to happen. And as we view this and understand this, Brother Ade, we grow in our own self-confidence. And it's a very natural process. And in studying ancient civilizations, I've seen that the quality and the love of self is so important to being able to build a loving society. You can't love someone that doesn't love you. That's a warped, toxic relationship. And you got to come face to face with that.
So what is that path to love in oneself?
Ma'at. Ma'at is the African symbol of truth, justice, harmony, balance, order and arrangement, and reciprocity. To understand what goes around, comes around. You shall reap what you sow. Now that's science. You know, that sounds biblical, but that's really science. If you take a ball and throw it up against the wall, you can expect that ball gonna come back to you. Yeah. If you throw out negative attitude, if you throw out negative vibrations, believe that those vibrations are going to come back to you. And sometimes they come back to you sevenfold. You give out positive vibration, come back to you sevenfold. You give out negative vibration, come back to you sevenfold. You shall reap what you sow. That's science. We are in the world right now where we are reaping what we're sowing. The virus that we're experiencing, that's us. We have been that virus that has been cooped up in us for so long, it has now escaped. And it's roaming the planet. And out of that infection came another infection, which was the deep instilled feelings of fragility that a human being could put his knee on another human being's neck and put his hand in his pocket to put the pressure on the neck with the intention of killing him. The human family should be so aghast at that. We watched it. We saw it. We watched Arbery jogging in the community. And somebody had the audacity to tape it. They didn't care if people saw it. You have people marching, speaking of Jews will not replace us. Blacks will not replace us. Hispanics will not replace us. Muslims will not replace us. That's fragile. You real fragile. Because if you're expecting somebody to replace you, it means that you ain't gonna be around too long. Because where would that concept come from? If you're thinking someone's gonna replace you, it must mean that you see yourself working yourself off of existence.
Yeah.
It's a deep-seated situation that we're facing all around the world, and it's coming to head. There's a movie I was in, documentary called Race War, where I did a soliloquy of the bookends. The bookends meaning that what Cristobal Colon, some people call him Christopher Columbus, what Cristobal Colon started, Donald Trump is going to end. This has been 500 and odd years of this Oman Empire, and it's just about wrapping up right now. It's just about ready to end. That's why you see all of this happening. We're also moving into the age of Aquarius, which is an age of transformation, and it's a feminine energy that's rising. So when George Floyd called for mama, he wasn't just calling for his biological mama.
Yeah.
He was calling for earthly mother. He was calling for the cosmic mother. And Ade, I'm speaking man to man right now and to all the men, but I'm speaking to the women too, because we all experience this, but particularly men because of who we're supposed to be in terms of our strength and protector and all the rest of that. You know what's happening in your life when you call for your mama? When you call for mama, that means that you have just about used every possible tool or weapon to get out of the situation you're in, and things are hopeless.
Yeah.
You call for your mama because you grew up knowing that mama would protect you. What made George Floyd so powerful, more so than Arbery, more so than Breonna Taylor, more so than all the countless other African American, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans that have been murdered at the hands of white supremacists, everybody knows what it's like when you call mama. And mama is almost a universal word we use for our mother. Mm-hmm. In all other languages around the world, ma, 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 that sound is what calls forward mama. The whole world heard him call mama. And the whole world watched mama come get him. They watched the cosmic mother say, baby, I'm bringing you back home. They're not appreciating you down here. I know you're struggling. I know you have your challenges. But the punishment does not fit the crime.
Yeah.
What you did, baby, no policeman should have his knee in your neck about to snap it and murder you with 3 other policemen holding it down. The cosmic mother has been unleashed on our planet. And in the age of Aquarius, our earth is cleansing itself of the refuse. The cosmic mother is saying, I brought you in and I can take you out. And I did not give birth. How many times mama say when we acting up, mama say, I didn't bring you in here to be like that.
Yeah.
I didn't bring you in here to be like this. I brought you in to be a respectable, productive citizen of the planet. I ain't brought you in here for this. But some of us haven't listened. And we keep misbehaving by hurting the children, by hurting people. And the cosmic mother say, if y'all can't handle it, I'll take care of it. That's what we're experiencing now. That is why one pandemic has led to another pandemic, because they're all opening up now because there is but one virus. And that virus is the negative vibrations that are perpetrated on people on our planet.
Yeah. Yeah. So what could one do? It sounds like there's this, I mean, from what I'm experiencing and seeing, is there does seem to be this big shift taking place. And what could someone do to help move this along, or there's a lot of people that it seems to me are, reacting with, there a lot of people are experiencing fear, anxiety. There's people that are having financial difficulties now, understandably so. And the fear is turned up, and couple that with not really knowing how to deal with difficult emotions, that is, causing some resistance, which is manifesting, it seems, into anger and lashing out and blaming other people and attacking other people. What would you say one can do to kind of recognize the transitions that's taking place and kind of hold a positive view of it and go along with it, and relax with what is going on, or cooperate with it?
To thine own self be true. Know yourself. Manage yourself. Know other people. And then lead other people by example. I'm very much into African history, very much into culture. But my attempt to have people become interested in searching for their true cultural identity doesn't come from my presentation. It comes from my example. And our children have to see that there is an advantage to knowing yourself. They have to see that you love yourself, you enjoy life, you can laugh. Life is worth living. But you got to lead by example. Be cautious. Don't put yourself in harm's way, but enjoy life as best you can to all those who are suffering, be it physically or economically, from this catastrophe. Don't serve time. Let time serve you. This was a timeout. The pandemic was a timeout. Earthly Mother said, go to your rooms. Not one bomb dropped, not one shot fired. Nature put everybody in their house for as long as they had sense to stay there. Put us in our room for a timeout. Think about how you've been acting. And that's what happened. And while we were in that room, we found out about Aubrey and Breonna and George Floyd. And we had time to percolate on the fact that, wow, that's really demonic. The fact that it was on social media and we watched that officer's face with absolutely no remorse. In fact, I would even dare say that in a sort of kind of toxic, disturbed way, he seemed happy. He seemed to vibrate off of hurting somebody else. And here we are wrestling with what's to happen to him. Some of us are saying, well, he doesn't deserve what he's about to get. What kind of mind could you have that you could watch that and say that? It's something we all have to stop and wonder, my brother Ade, and to the family watching. We all have to stop. Gil Scott-Heron had a phenomenal song. It's been referenced many times, particularly nowadays because of what's going on. And the song was, "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." And while the song is very positive, I was able to speak to him. And also, I also heard another version of "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." And he explained why the revolution will not be televised. Because he said the revolution will not be televised because the only real revolution that takes place is revolution in your mind.
Yeah.
Everything else you see happening outside, Black Lives Matter, marching and protesting, that's not the revolution. That's the result of the revolution. Because the revolution was in the mind of everybody that was involved in those protests that said, we can't let this happen anymore. This must stop now. That's the revolution. And when each of us gets that in our mind and acts on that, that goes back to the story of those two teachers that ate in the basement until they found out there's more people up there that would rather be positive. And there's only two people that are negative. Yeah. So let us go back up and claim the cafeteria and send those negative forces down into the basement. And that's what we have to do. Yeah. Those of right mind Remember, as a teacher, Brother Ade, one of the things I got in trouble for a lot was I didn't want no bad teachers in any school I was in. I had a sense of pride in being a teacher. I found it to be a sacred obligation. I didn't want bad teachers. If you hurt the children, if you did not teach them what you should have taught them, if you conducted yourself in a way that was not productive for the children, I personally wanted you out of the building. More so, not just for the children, but for your sake too. I don't know how many teachers I've told, I blame your guidance counselor for this, because whoever told you to get into teaching didn't know you at all, because you're not a good teacher. And I wanted you out because I had a pride in my profession. And what I say to the police, I know that there are good, I know very good, moral human beings who are police. I know them. And I respect them. And I know that the great majority of police, I believe, are good and have the right mindset as to protect the community and to serve the community. I know that. But what I have said to policemen when I'm speaking to them, sometimes even I'm speaking to the actual police department, because they brought me in to talk in the Bronx. The same way I felt about getting rid of bad teachers, you ought to have the pride in your profession of being a policeman to get those bad police out. And the reason why those bad police are able to stay in is because you're not speaking out.
Yeah.
And remember the hottest part of hell is reserved not for those police that are doing the wrong thing. The hottest part of hell is reserved for you because you know better and you're letting it happen. And I know this. This is science to me. I used to work with a lot of the police when I was working in the school system. I worked with PAL when they had their Olympics. I worked with the DARE program that dealt with drugs and other types of situations that the police were involved in. They had a DARE program. They used to come get me at my office and they drive me to a school to talk to the children. I was involved with different programs like in middle schools and in high schools where police came in and were beginning to teach the children how to be. It was almost like a young police academy. So my thing when we talk about defund police, that was a dangerous word to use, defund. It was dramatic, but it was dangerous. Refund. In other words, put more money into PAL, put more money in the DARE program, put more money into programs that are going to produce our future police officers that are from the community itself. The African and Hispanic American, the Caribbean American. Those programs are preparing for 20 years, 30 years to bring forward a new group of police that are of and for the community. Put the money there, as opposed to where you're putting it as it relates to the problems we're having. Defund was not a word that I would use because I understand it's dramatic, but it's also something that people will use as a tool, maybe even as a weapon, to distract you from the real things that we're dealing with.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we are at the hour mark. Just wanted to, there's a few, I don't know if we'll have time for these because these are pretty big questions, but a good friend of mine, Ron Usha, he's actually, I met you through him. He had a couple of questions. Maybe we could pick one. You know, he asks if you can speak about the African origins of the Buddha story and non-duality consciousness from as it's practiced in Kemet and Kush.
Well, just looking over your shoulder, which might be your left shoulder, up behind you, right? Okay. That Buddha's black. That's a black Buddha. You go to Vietnam, they're black. Buddha was black. He was an African that brought a spiritual philosophy out of Africa, a Kushite, and brought it across. And so when you see a Buddha being a short, heavy-set man in a lotus position with a bald head, that you rub his tummy for good luck, that's not Buddha. The Asian community did to Buddha what the European community did to Jesus Christ. They're not honoring the real Buddha. And so the Buddha comes out of a concept of a philosophy of life, which is spirituality. Buddhism is not a religion. It's a way of life. But it has become a religion because many people have become comfortable with thinking of things as a religion because they don't know where to go with spirituality, because there's no house to go to. There's no temple to go to. In fact, the only temple you can go to in spirituality is your own temple, which is your body. Mm. And so that's how I see Buddhism coming right out of Kemet, right out of spirituality before religions. Much of what I speak of in spirituality before religions are the very tenets of Buddhism. It's a way of life. It's a way of looking at the world. I've got the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I got the Buddhist Book of the Dead. And it's pretty much the same thing. It varies because of the geographic location, and of course the people that developed it out of one geographic location to another, but the storyline is all the same as it relates to resurrection of the soul of the human. It's all basically the same.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of kind of my view. But in terms of the second question, please define for me dual what? You said something about dual.
Can you speak about non-duality consciousness as practiced in Kemet and Kush? So
I need a definition of what non-duality is.
Non-duality is that I don't know if I can define it in the best way.
You can give an example, because then I can respond to it.
Maybe one way is that there's only the self. You know, there's nothing other than the self. And when I say the self, self with a big S, that there's only one reality. Like we may say, maybe another word to use is pure awareness, consciousness, that is the only reality, that's all that there is, and everything is born out of that. You know, everything comes from that.
Yes. The first law of the Kybalion is the universe is mental. The universe means one word. Universe, one word. There is only one. All of us are manifestations of that one. And all of us are manifestations of that one in our own individuality. Ade Richardson is Ade Richardson. Kaba Hiawatha is Kaba Hiawatha. But our Ka, our energy, our spirit, what animates you is the same force that animates me. But the way in which you are animated and the way in which I am animated is different. That's what makes Ade Ade and Kaba Kaba. That Ade and that Kaba is our soul. That's what separates. That's the difference between spirit and soul. Soul is the particular unique individual created like a drop of water. A drop of water is very much singular to itself, but it's made up of the same substance from whence it came. But that drop is that drop. My drop is my drop, but the same thing that made me made you. However, because we are two different drops, we are separate in that sense, but we are of the same substance, which is the all. There is only one thing that we all come from. And it's amazing. And it's a beautiful story. It's a wonderful story if we just interpreted it right. But we got a group of people that were not here in the beginning, and they have a warped interpretation of the spirituality that was presented. They took the metaphor and made it literal. They literally created anthropomorphic beings that really were just manifestations of the creative energy of the all. And they got people to believe it. And it's amazing. because what I see is so beautiful and so wonderful that if we should embrace it, if people actually act the way the Bible tells you you should act, despite its contradictions, but if people acted like Jesus. Now, in my study of Jesus, Jesus was so poor, he walked the earth with one sandal sometimes because he couldn't afford a second sandal. In all of the Bible, the New Testament that I've read of Jesus, I never heard the brother say he going home. If I were to look for Jesus today, I'd go under a bridge because chances are he'd be living in a cardboard box under a bridge. The Jesus that I know of. And yet, despite how poor he was, he could go out into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights and come in, and one of his students would have a cool glass of water for him after being parched by the desert, and Jesus would look off to the side and see a child thirsty. Jesus would say, no, the water is for the child. I mean, do you know what type of personality you have to be that type person? If everybody acted like that, Brother Ade, we'd be in a wonderful place. If people acted the way the books of Moses, the Torah, if they really acted the way those books, particularly Exodus, I'm speaking metaphor now. Mm-hmm. I'm not speaking literal, I'm speaking metaphor. If people actually live the way the Old Testament says, this world would be beautiful. If people actually live the way the Quran tells you to live, this would be a wonderful place. And I could go through all of the other faith systems that we know of. If people practiced what they preach, this would be a wonderful world. That's why I know there has to be a toxic something going on, because you're preaching one thing, but you're practicing another. And when I saw Beauregard, the Attorney General, quote the same passage from the Bible relating to our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters on the border, he quoted the same biblical passage that was quoted that enslaved Black people. That's how deep you can act demonic quoting your God's book. Something's wrong with that, Ade. I got a problem with that. We ain't practicing what we're preaching. I believe, that's why I tell people, don't throw away any of your holy books. Just interpret it different. The Bible, all of that are all, I demonstrate in spirituality before religions where all of those scriptures came from. I describe it, I recognize it, and through metaphor, it tells me how to live, be it Cain and Abel, or be it Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, be it the flood, the crucifixion of Christ, the Eucharistic feast. I can find all that in Africa. All those stories are there. But they were metaphors that guided the human being as to how to live their life. Beautiful stories. Metaphor. Not to be taken literally. But these folk done take the metaphor and made it literal. They took fantasy and made it real. And they don't practice what they preach. We all have to stop and wonder, where do we go? When you ask, where do we go? Where do we go? Know yourself. Know that you are the creator having a human experience, and how you treat others, including nature, the trees, the animals, the way you treat the earth and the water and the air. The way in which you treat the creator's creation should be the way in which you view yourself as the creator having a human experience. So when you're polluting the water, if you're walking down the street and you have a paper wrapper that you've taken something off, and you just throw it on the street as opposed to waiting till you get to the garbage can, we have a problem there.
Yeah.
Pollution. And pollution is as much a detriment to the success of the human family as how we treat each other is. How we look to our women, how we treat our women, the vessels of the creator that bring forward life. I cannot understand how a man can do a job, a woman can do the same job, but the woman gets paid less than the man. I don't understand that. You got to help me understand this. I don't understand it. That's not ma'at. That's not equal. That's not balanced. You're giving a man a certain amount of money simply because he's male and she's female doing the same job, sometimes even better than the man is doing. It's a problem. We got to right the wrong. And I'm not saying to put our sisters up on pedestals. I'm not saying to put women up on pedestals. I'm saying men got to get off their high horse. You are not superior to the woman. We are not superior to the woman. What made great civilizations, what built the pyramids, what created technology was that the man and woman sat, walked, and talked side by side, equal. Not one in front of the other, not one behind the other, not one above the other or below. We walk together as men and women, complements. And when we come together in procreation, there's two entities that become one. That is God personified. And that is why the end result of that connection is another human being. And if we're going to build a civilization, we have to understand dynasties are not built on baby daddies and baby mamas. Black folk don't have a problem as it relates to relationships. I see us having a challenge as it relates to commitment. We have to understand that as a family, as a man, hey man, when I was growing up, before I was married, before I had children, I used to walk around and my shopping bag used to say the Mad Hatter, Shirt King. I got married and had children, my shopping bag say, Toys are us, babies are us, kids are us. It ain't about I, me, and mine. It's about we, us, and ours. And when you grow up in a family that emulates that, you then create families that emulate that.
Yeah.
I also understand that it was never meant for us to be here as a family. I know that it was meant for us simply to be enslaved to do work. It was never meant for a Black man to be a father, or really a Black woman to be a mother, even though she was the mother of the plantation. It was never meant for that. It was never meant for us to get married, because if the father and the mother were married and had children, then that meant that the children would obey the father as opposed to the European who was the owner of the plantation. So once a Black man started to get some form of power on the plantation, he was sold, because he'd have been a bad influence as it relates to the power structure. So I understand now as we moved, and also basically after enslavement was ended, they started slave breeding. They started to breed Africans to create, because you could not trade in Africans anymore. You could not buy Africans. So what they did is that they bred the Africans that were already in the United States. And that's what built up the population of African people on the plantation. And it was never meant for us to love those whom we reproduced with. It was simply to bring a baby into the world so that they would work on the plantation. And so I realized that us coming up out of our sleepless slumber, as Bob Marley said, we're coming up out of this sleepless slumber. Little by little, I'm seeing more men in the street with strollers. I'm seeing more men going to open school nights in school. It took us a while to get like this. I realized it's going to take a little while to get out of it. But I believe we're headed in the right direction if we just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's a good place to end. How do you feel?
My brother, I appreciate this opportunity. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you and to your family and to the community that you bring your message to. I just thank you very much. And I just want to let you know that, as you said earlier, my book is on Kindle and it's paperback. So it's something to think about. And I thank you. Also, I'd like to encourage those who would be interested to go to my website. And on my website, I have a free e-course on my book, Spirituality Before Religion, 6 days. And I also have my revised study guide, 44 pages, that will take you through the entire process, not just in terms of what to study, but how to study, the pages to study, the books to read. It takes you through the process, step by step. To me, that is my most important work in my life.
Great. Great. I want to get my hands on that one.
That's why it's free.
Yeah.
It's free because it's priceless. There are some things that are priceless in life. There are some things that have no price. And that study guide, to me, is the most important thing that I have produced, because John Henry Clarke told us, you may not get to your destination when you're on your trip. So make sure that you write out a proper map so that even if you don't get there, those that come behind you know where you were going. That study guide is my map. It's my life's map. It will be improved as time goes on, as I grow and mature. I don't plan on going no place no soon, because I plan on Methuselah this, okay? Like, I'm going 200 years. I'm looking to live 200 years. So I'm not saying this because I think I'm going any place anytime soon. I'm just saying that this is an outline and an abbreviated form of all of the work that I've done throughout my life.
Yeah.
And I did it for young people, so that for those who come after me, if I may not get where I want to get after 200 years, you can pick up and keep going on the journey that I've been on. I thank you, Brother Ade, for this opportunity. I thank the community for tuning in, and I wish us safety and health. And I look forward to what's on the other side of this situation we're going through, because I am sure that whatever we're experiencing, some of us will be better for the experience on the other side.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest lessons I've ever learned, I've learned in hell, so I could create a heaven.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's been an honor. Thank you so much. And I'll get your website. Can you mention your website again?
Yes, my website is www.kabakamene.com. KABAKAMENE.com. www.KABAKAMENE.com.
Okay, and I'll put a link.
You put your email in there, and then the first day of the e-course will come along with my study guide. And you'll see what I'm talking about with the study guide.
Okay, great. And I'll put that link on the video. So I'll put it in the description of this video and on the video. I do some editing with the video. I put some music in the beginning and end and titles and stuff, and I'll send you a copy. Thank you. It's been an honor. I really mean it. This has been a great conversation, and I just felt like I was able to absorb so much wisdom from you and your experience, and it's deeply appreciated. And thank you for sharing yourself with us, and for taking the time out and having some trust in me to, showing up here, not really, knowing me very well, but you gave me a chance, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you. And just some closing remarks. Again, this is Guided Meditations and More. My name is Ade Richardson, and we are having a conversation with Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene. And I'll post his website in the description area of this video. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below the video. Send me a direct message to my inbox. And I think through this website, the professor's website, you have a mailing list or something. They could put their email. Okay.
Well, once they get there, yes, because once they get there, they'll see other things that I have up there. Booklets, ebooks, DVDs, my oil, things that they will go, that will be a continuing relationship between myself and those who come to my website.
Okay, great. All right.
And I'm on Instagram too, Kaba Kamene.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I'm on Facebook, Kaba Kamene.
Okay, great.
I'm all over the place because I'm trying to get the word out, and blessings to my son, Heru, who in his infinite youth understands the millennials and the YZ generation, and he assists me in getting the word out. So that's appreciated too. I listen to the young people that guide me well.
Yeah.
Some of my greatest lessons I've learned in my life, Brother Ade, have come out of the mouth of a 5-year-old in my kindergarten class.
Oh yeah. That just reminds me, my son, he's I have a 9-year-old, and I was having a little bit of a stressful day and worrying, and I went and sat down next to him, and he just noticed, they pick up on these things, and he just he held my hand. He just looked at me, like he knew. He held my hand. He said, "Don't worry, it's just a game."
That takes care of everything. If you had a problem, you ain't got one no more.
Yeah.
Out of the mouths of our babes. That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Give your family my regards, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Much love to you. Take care.